This is Right to Life Radio, a production of Right to Life of Central California. And now, here's your host, John Gerardi.
Well, we've now gotten past the deadline for the California legislature to submit all of their new legislation for the year. They a certain date in February by which they have to do it. And now that that's happened, we have just a whole tidal wave of bad abortion bills that have been introduced, and we're going to start digging through them. Jonathan Keller from California Family Council is here with me to go through all of this. And I think the big themes here, it's hard to 100% nail down a super consistent theme, but the big themes that they have are abortion access is always a big theme.
Yes.
Making abortion easier, making abortion more available, making abortion more affordable, paying for abortion more and more and more. That is always sort of a big priority for the left. We also see some stuff to kind of change language and how we talk about abortion. So I'm going to go, and then also the big theme of they want to target pro-life pregnancy clinics, pro-life clinics basically for misinformation. That's their big push, is to try to shut down or try to in some way target pro-life clinics for misinformation. Now, we already talked about that a little bit last episode, talking about AB 315, AB 315. This is a bill that would penalize pro-life pregnancy clinics for, quote, false or misleading statements. And misleading there is doing a lot of heavy lifting in the context of this bill. What is misleading in the context of a pro-life clinic? Is it just misleading to say that you're offering women's prenatal care services but not abortion? Is that misleading just inherently? How that word's going to get defined is, and if it's not well defined, that could lead to constitutional challenges all over the place. But there's more. There's more stuff other than that. So, Jonathan, I think what I want to go through first is SB 385.
Yes, indeed.
So SB 385 is consistent with, well, both SB 385 and this other bill about Medi-Cal abortion.
Or AB 576.
Okay, so AB 576. Okay, so here's what these two bills are doing. The one bill relates to physician assistants, okay? SB 385. So in the medical world, you have different levels of healthcare professionals who are authorized to do different levels of stuff. And starting at the top, you have doctors, then you have nurse practitioners, you have physician assistants who are kind of like nurse practitioners, have certain things they can do similar, some dissimilar to nurse practitioners. And what we've seen in California, and then after that, you have registered nurses and then medical assistants. Okay. What we've seen in California with abortion is this desire to lower the bar for who can do abortions.
Yes.
So it used to be just doctors could do it. Then they changed the rules to, okay, well, now nurse practitioners can do it with doctor oversight. Then it's like, oh, nurse practitioners, now they can do it with less doctor oversight. And now SB 385 is going to allow physician assistants to perform first trimester abortion by aspiration. So this is not administering an abortion pill. This is actually going in, performing a surgical abortion. This is actually, performing a physical procedure to perform a first trimester abortion done by someone who is not a doctor.
Yep.
Who will have some kind of specified training.
John, it's specified training. What more do you want?
Yeah, exactly. It's
not specified in this bill, but it's specified.
It's specified, yeah. It's the specified training not being 4 years of medical school or residency, blah, 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 blah. No. It's just physician assistant training. So
it would also, John, I just have to point out that part of the big advantage of this, when they talk about advantage, part of the selling point for this bill and for this type of training is that not only is it allowing non-doctors to perform these abortions, but it is freeing up the fact that California has such a wide and disparate population. I mean, yes, we have these huge population centers in Los Angeles and in San Francisco, but then you have a ton of people that live out in the Inland Empire. And not just like a big population center like Riverside or San Bernardino, but you got Palm Desert. You've got Hesperia, Apple Valley. You've got Ridgecrest. You've got all up and down here in the Central Valley. You've got Parlier and Woodlake and Delano. I mean, you have all these tiny little areas that maybe live an hour away or even more, maybe 2 hours away from the nearest Planned Parenthood or actual, full-blown hospital or medical center. Mm-hmm. But now, if you have a physician's assistant, I mean, it's not worth it financially for a MD, an OBGYN, to go and travel to these tiny communities to go just take the life of 1 or 2 babies a week. But physician assistants, yeah, sure. I can make that worth my while.
Right.
Going out here. So it dramatically expands the access.
Right. Yeah. And that's the point of it. Their problem is they don't have enough providers in California to do all the abortions that they want to do. So the state legislature over the last 2 years has been doing one thing after another to kind of artificially increase the number of providers available to actually perform abortions. So whether that's, paying off the student loan debt for doctors or nurse practitioners, whatever, if they agree to do abortions in lower income parts of the state, fast-tracking the regulatory process for approving, the establishment of new abortion clinics, really pushing the abortion pill, because you don't need a provider in clinic to use to administer the abortion pill. So this is of a piece with the more general the more general goal of the California legislature is we need to increase abortion access. We need people to be able to have abortions more and more and more. And they're going to do that at any cost, seemingly even at the cost of the adult patient's safety. Because, I mean, you just have to accept that as you have people with less and less expertise, less and less knowledge, less and less training performing abortions, you're increasing the rates of there's no way that 100 abortions done by physician assistants are going to be done as well as 100 abortions done by doctors. There's just no way. It just has to happen that the quality is going to go down.
And I mean, again, it feels so gross to say they're done as well, or the quality, of course. I mean,
well, sure, yes.
But I mean,
we're all pro-life here. We know what we're talking about.
I know
they're all bad. Yeah, but with the possibility of more health complications for the mother, of more possibilities of harm. Like,
right.
You have to sort of, if you are going to let physician assistants do abortions, you are just accepting we are okay with these being screwed up more.
Right.
Yeah.
The good news is, John, that thanks to AB 2223 that passed last year, even if these physician assistants screw up the abortion, and it results, for example, in the delivery of a live baby, don't worry. AB 2223 will ensure that if that child dies post-delivery, the coroner will not have to do a report on that. And neither the physician's assistant or the mother will be liable for any potential prosecution or anything if the child is not able to receive life-saving medical treatment because this is performed at a rural health clinic somewhere in Podunk, California.
Right. So yeah, it's but this is where and AB 2223 is so bad, not because it's necessarily legalizing infanticide, which was the first objection we had to it in its original iterations. It's really bad because it does not allow you to investigate if someone has like criminally screwed up, and it limits liability for people who help out with like sort of home cooked abortions. So yeah, it's just really bad. It's really bad in a number of respects, mostly because we won't ever be able to find the kind of Kermit Gosnell types. We don't have the means of identifying them. Anyway, the general theme here is we need to they want to expand abortion access, so they're going to do that by hook or by crook. And the chief way they're going to do that is increasing the number of providers, and they're doing that all kinds of ways: forgiving student loan debt, increasing the number of abortion clinics, more funding for abortion clinics. That's why did Planned Parenthood in Fresno get a $1 million grant? They're just trying to help out these abortion clinics with just more and more and more funding. And I don't see an end in sight to this. I don't know at what point we're going to have attained, in the eyes of the California legislature, the maximal amount of abortion access. I don't see how that's going to happen in their eyes. I think they're just going to keep on pushing this until kingdom come. Now, when we return, I want to talk about the Medi-Cal angle of this and a new piece of legislation basically to push even further back when people can take the abortion pill and further endanger women's lives for the sake of, again, expanding abortion access. That's next on Right to Life Radio. We're going through the new bills introduced in the California state legislature to expand abortion availability. Women's health be damned in the California legislature this year. It's actually a good point to remind people. So this seems very basic, Jonathan, but I've found that a larger percentage of people don't actually clearly know this than you'd think. So you have Congress in Washington, D.C., and they write laws for the whole country. I'm talking about the California state legislature, which is like California's little mini version of Congress.
Yes,
and they write laws that govern us here in California. So instead of the House of Representatives, we have in California the state assembly, which has 80 members. Instead of the U.S. Senate in Washington, we have the California State Senate, which has 40 members. Okay. And then instead of the president signing something into law in California, after the assembly passes something and the Senate passes something, the governor signs something into law. Okay, so that's the California legislative process. That's what I'm talking about here. These are California laws to expand abortion availability, one bill to allow physician assistants to perform abortions, and the next bill, which has to do with what Medi-Cal is going to reimburse when it comes to chemical pill abortions.
Now, John, why is it such a big deal that we're even talking about California reimbursing? Because I thought I'd been reliably informed by multiple national news stories that the Hyde Amendment is this draconian thing that prohibits taxpayer dollars from being spent on abortion.
Well, you are partially correct, Jonathan Keller, but the Hyde Amendment prohibits federal taxpayer dollars from being spent directly on abortion. Individual states can still have their state taxpayer dollars fund abortion. So what we have in California, there's the Medicaid program, which is basically health insurance for lower income people under a certain income threshold. The Medicaid program in California is called Medi-Cal. And Medi-Cal covers abortion, and the way they cover abortion is through a purely California state taxpayer dollar stream of funding. Okay, so there's no federal tax dollars paying for abortions in California. It's just California state taxpayer dollars. Now, Medi-Cal currently covers the abortion pill, and the global reimbursement rate under Medi-Cal for the abortion pill is, I believe it's something like what was the total amount? I actually have this spreadsheet. I believe it's something like $500. I'm going to look up Medi-Cal reimbursement rates. I know I've got this Excel spreadsheet around here somewhere. Anyway, what is going to happen now is we have AB 576, okay? So before we were talking about, any bill that's introduced in the California legislature, it gets basically the title of Assembly Bill or Senate Bill, depending on if an assembly member wrote it and introduced it or a state senator wrote it or introduced it, and then it gets a number. So we were talking in the last segment about SB 385, letting physician assistants perform abortions. This is, where is it? I lost it. This is AB no. Where was it? Medi-Cal reimbursement. AB 576. Here we go.
Yes.
AB 576. So Assembly Bill 576 requires taxpayers' Medi-Cal funding to fully reimburse providers for medication abortions, but which is already happening.
Yes.
They're already reimbursing for medication abortions. But the critical thing here is how far into pregnancy Medi-Cal will keep reimbursing providers who prescribe the abortion pill.
And John, generally speaking, if I can hop in, I think it makes sense, generally speaking, that Medi-Cal, using our taxpayer dollars, would only reimburse for procedures that are legal.
Yeah, that are legal, and that makes sense.
Yeah, and that are within, as they say, to use the language they put in here. We're going to get to this, but generally it should be statutorily spelled out. It shouldn't just be, well, the doctor, they feel like, I think they need this, so we'll go ahead and pay for it. Don't worry about it.
And probably not everything can be 100% spelled out, but Medi-Cal has a massive ability to regulate healthcare in California based on what it will and won't cover.
Right.
Or reimburse providers for. So,
and John, you say will and won't. The thing that I think is fascinating about this bill is it says fully reimburse.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you talk to doctors, one of the problems with Medi-Cal is that in most cases,
they don't fully reimburse.
They don't. They are partially. So a lot of times if a doctor takes a Medi-Cal patient, they won't
make as much money.
Yeah. It's kind of a shot in the dark. They're rolling the dice, and it's like, insurance roulette. Well, I'm going to take this patient. Mm-hmm. I have no idea if I'm going to get 50% back or 20% back or any money back if I provide healthcare services to this patient.
Right. So what this bill critically does, and this is the key thing, the abortion pill, generally speaking, can only be prescribed to someone within the first 10 weeks of pregnancy. Within the first 10 weeks. This is the current sort of, this has been for a while the sort of currently accepted kind of health and safety restrictions on it, because basically as the child is larger and larger and larger, and as the child is further and further along in the course of the pregnancy, the abortion pill process becomes more and more dangerous for the mom, because basically the abortion pill is artificially inducing a miscarriage. You cut off the baby's food supply with the first pill, and then the second pill induces contractions to expel the baby. So the later in pregnancy somebody has a miscarriage, and that's kind of what we're artificially creating here. The later in pregnancy that someone has a miscarriage, the worse it can be as far as possible health, side effects for the mother. And there's all kinds of health side effects that come about as a result of pill abortion, whether it's hemorrhaging, bleeding. There have been, I think, something like 28 women who have died from the abortion pill due to infection, blood clotting, and things like that. So this bill is going to basically allow doctors to get reimbursed by Medi-Cal for the abortion pill, even if they go beyond the 10-week point, if it's within a, quote, within some kind of accepted practice range. Now, again, this is about abortion access. The pro-abortion side wants to push the abortion pill because then you don't need a provider to do it.
Yep.
And you don't need a provider there to perform a procedure or something. So they want to make the abortion pill available for more and more and more women for later and later and later on into pregnancy.
Then you don't even have to have those providers we talked about in the last segment. They don't even have to go to Ridgecrest. They can just mail something.
Just mail something. Yeah. And so this is so this is why we keep talking about access as the most important sort of value, the sort of normative value that the pro-abortion side is pushing more than anything else, even beyond patient safety. They have to understand, they have to know that by pushing this, we're going to put more and more women into dangerous situations by having physician assistants do abortion, by having the abortion pill be reimbursed by Medi-Cal later and later and later. They're trying to do everything possible to have abortion more and more available, more and more accessible. The health consequences be damned. And that's the really terrifying thing about all this is they just don't care. They want abortion to be available at all costs.
Yep.
All right, we're going to dig more into this right after the break. This is Right to Life Radio on Power Talk. We're going through more and more California state legislation regarding abortion. All of the new legislation for the legislative year has been introduced in the California state legislature up in Sacramento. These are, again, laws that will bind all of us here in California if they should be passed by the Assembly and the State Senate. Hey, if you want to make your voice heard on these things, you should come on March 6th to the California March for Life on Monday, March 6th. We'll be leaving at 7 a.m. from the parking lot of Holy Spirit Catholic Church in Fresno. Get in touch with us at Right to Life because seating is limited. 559-229-2229 during the week. We're open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. Or just shoot us an email at info@rtlcc.org if you'd like to get a spot on the bus. So anyway, we'll be discussing all this stuff on the way up and when we're at Sacramento. So now, I'll quickly touch on, there's a couple of other abortion-related bills. Some of these are just spot bills, okay, which this is a term of art within the California state legislative process. Basically, because the state legislature has these hard deadlines that you have to introduce all your new legislation for the year by this date in February, sometimes, but you can amend your bill after that point. You just have to introduce it by a certain point. So there are a couple of bills that have been introduced that have very open, broad, generic, non-specific language that says a bill to regulate abortion in such and such a way. But that's all it says. So that's clearly a spot bill. They're just holding on to a spot so that they can introduce a more specific piece of legislation later on down the line. So we have a couple of spot bills. We have one really stupid bill, SB 345, that basically is going to replace any mention of the phrase unborn child or unborn person with the word fetus in various California codes. I guess this has always annoyed me, this whole argument, both from pro-lifers and pro-choicers, frankly, where pro-lifers say, we should never refer to the unborn child as a fetus. It's dehumanizing. It's like, well, no, it's just a stage of human development. I mean, I call people infants and adolescents and adults. Fetus is just one of the various stages of human development. But at the same time, pro-choicers do use fetus because they do think it sounds less human than baby or unborn child.
But
I find the whole argument very tiresome because on the one hand, it's like, clearly the pro-choice side is doing it because they think it's somehow rhetorically effective. But I just think it's silly when, I don't know. I've had a couple of times where I've given talks for pro-life groups where I didn't take an honorarium and I drove a very long distance and really inconvenienced myself and my family to speak for some pro-life group. And then after my talk, the only thing someone asked in the Q&A was, how come you referred to the unborn child as a fetus?
That's right.
That's not right. And didn't hear you say the word murder during your talk. It's like, I run two pro-life organizations. I started one myself. I drove all the way down here to give a pro-life talk about bad pro-abortion legislation, and you're going to give me crap because I accidentally said pro-choice one time, and because
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
Sir, this is a Wendy's. Yeah, like it's unbelievable what pro-lifers will find to criticize you for. Anyway, so they're going to have this bill about, replacing the phrase unborn child with fetus. Okay, well, whatever. I guess if a pro-choicer introduces a bill that says, black, I'm going to yell white, I guess. So if they want to do it, it's probably bad. So I guess I'll oppose it. But this argument I find very tiresome.
I just think that it is, it's interesting because as we as we mentioned and as we know, that fetus is just a Latin term that means
For nothing left to lose. Nothing, no. Yeah.
a little one or offspring.
Yeah.
So if you're little, like, I understand that by translating it into Latin, it makes people feel like, oh, now we have successfully dehumanized this blob of tissue. But
I don't know.
it feels like
It's a stage of human development.
It is.
I don't know. I mean, it's anyway. Now, with all of this legislation, paying for abortion pills beyond 10 weeks of pregnancy through Medi-Cal, letting physician assistants perform abortion, this broad goal that the California legislature seems to have of maximizing abortion access. Producer Colton, during the break, had a very good question. What's the end goal here? Like, why? Like, to what end are they going? And I thought that was a very good question. Because that I agree that isn't immediately clear. I think the answer is sort of twofold. There's the public answer that the pro-choice side is going to give, or the pro-abortion side is going to give. But then I think there's also the hard, cold, dollar bills answer. So let's go through this. I think the answer for why is there this push for abortion access, I think the pro-choice side believes there are a number of women who want to have abortions and who don't for various reasons. Whether that is they cannot afford them, which at this point would be laughable if someone can't afford an abortion. When every insurance plan in the state has to cover abortion, there's no out-of-pocket costs for abortion, so I don't know. And Medi-Cal has basically expanded coverage enough so it's that pretty much any lower-income person's eligible for Medi-Cal. I don't know who can't afford an abortion anymore. But there's can't afford an abortion or can't find a place to go get an abortion. You see this with the Sturm and Drang. Oh, also, by the way, for those of you in the South Valley, there's a push to open an abortion clinic in Tulare. And I think in the next segment, we're going to talk about that and give more information about that. Basically, there's this push to say, oh, there are all these rural parts of California where there's no abortion clinic nearby, and people have to drive an hour or something to go get an abortion. So I think access is their talking point. We're going to keep pushing more means for abortion access until every woman in this state who wants an abortion can get one readily. And if they can't afford it, we'll have the taxpayer pay for it. If they can't go to an abortion clinic, have the abortion pill mailed to them. If they don't have an abortion clinic nearby, we'll do everything by hook or by crook to open up an abortion clinic near them, have providers with less and less skill and training and education and experience perform abortions, from doctors to nurse practitioners to now potentially physician assistants. That's what we want. The other answer, though, I think is money. They want money. The abortion providers want a ton of filthy, stinking
lucre
money. That's what they want.
Yep.
Because abortion is a business. It's a profitable business. It's the only really profitable thing probably that Planned Parenthood does is abortion, as far as the actual services they provide, and especially as far as what motivates their donors to give to them is the fact that they do abortions. If Planned Parenthood said tomorrow, we're not going to do abortions anymore, we're just going to do prenatal care and contraception, and that's it, their donors would stop donating to them. And they would lose their biggest sources of fund. All the political will to constantly fund Planned Parenthood by hook or by crook would dry up, because that's what pays their bills. Not just as far as the revenue they generate from their clinics by doing abortions, but also what they can get in donations, because people want legal abortion. They want to support legal abortion. They give to Planned Parenthood to make that a reality.
You have to market the ideal that reproductive rights, quote unquote, reproductive freedom is under assault. You have to be able to say, oh, we're just at the precipice of losing everything, despite the fact that, John, we don't even have time to talk about it on the show. I'm sure we'll have time in the future. You have Gavin Newsom launching this 20-state, reproductive, governors coalition.
Yeah.
Bipartisan.
Because he's definitely not, trying to run for president.
No, not at all.
Yeah, he's not running for president. Yeah. So, yeah, I think, and this is a thing with a lot of, I think, not to pick on social liberals in other respects. And again, Right to Life doesn't take a position on, other issues beyond, I guess, the abortion issue. But when you look at issues like, transgender treatments and things like that, there's a facade of, we're doing this to uphold and vindicate the rights of transgender persons, but there's also the very bare bones, dollars to donuts reality that there are doctors who do gender transition treatments who can make a lot of money off of it. That is there. It's not there, and you can't deny that it's there, and you can't deny that some of the people who have lobbied for transgender treatments are people who are going to make money off of it. With legalizing marijuana, it's legalize it. Yeah,
John, I can't believe
people should be able to alleviate their pain, man.
Are you asserting
it's not
that
all for every one person like that? There's a gazillionaire venture capitalist who wants to get in on the ground floor of a legal weed market in this state and then that state and that state, who's pushing for legalization because he thinks he can make gazillions and gazillions of dollars.
Are you asserting, John, that the medical establishment, and particularly its associated lobbying groups, might be pursuing profits at the expense of and ahead of patient safety and what's best for society as a whole?
Yeah, it's amazing how our dominant before COVID and then during COVID and now after COVID, we go from pharmaceutical companies are horrible money-grubbing monsters, and then during COVID, we need to do everything the pharmaceutical companies say, and then they're back to being horrible price-gouging monsters. These are massive corporate entities who like making money, and they want to make money, and there's a profit motive, and there's a real profit motive involved also with abortion, okay? Abortions are not cheap. Abortions reimburse really well. Abortions are expensive medical procedures. So these abortion providers are able to use the political opportunity of the overturning of Roe v. Wade to get from the taxpayers tons and tons and tons of money. Do you think the Planned Parenthood clinic on Fulton Street would have gotten a $1 million grant from the state of California had Roe v. Wade not been overturned last year? I don't know.
I doubt it.
I doubt it too. I find that hard to believe. Okay. All of these bills that got passed last year, the impetus behind them was the fact that Roe v. Wade was getting overturned. So Planned Parenthood's not dumb. They've got lobbyists. They have very well-paid lobbyists who are smart and know how to scratch their clients' back, and they put together bills to make Planned Parenthood and all these other abortion providers a whole heck of a lot of money. And that's, I think, when you scratch some of these social justice-y causes, you scratch it a little bit, the answer to all of your questions is money. There was this other guy who said that money is the root of all evil.
Yes.
Not sure if you recall who that guy is, but at any rate.
John, this reminds me on that note of...
Yeah.
In the Denver airport, you might have seen my thing where it was a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and it said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." And I said, pretty sure someone else said that before Abraham Lincoln.
A George divided against itself cannot stand. It was George Costanza. All right. When we return, we're going to talk about the efforts to open an abortion clinic in Tulare, California, and some updates about Right to Life events coming up in March. That's next on Right to Life Radio. We have a lot going on in the pro-life community here locally. We got a lot of events coming up at Right to Life of Central California this March. On Friday, March 3rd at 7 p.m. at Fresno State in McLean Hall, 161, we will have Autumn Lindsay Higashi from Students for Life of America. She'll be speaking. Students for Life at Fresno State is co-sponsoring this with us. You can have free parking in lots P15, P17, and P31. Pizza will be provided. More information at our website, righttolifeca.org. We've also got our California March for Life, run by California Family Council in Sacramento. We'll be taking a bus on Monday, March 6th. We'll be departing at 7 a.m. from Holy Spirit Catholic Church in Fresno. Bus seating is limited. Get in touch with us. Call us at 559-229-2229 or email us at rtlcc.org, or go to righttolifeca.org/events. And then we have our Dine for Life fundraiser Wednesday, March 8th at Mountain Mike's Pizza on Cedar Avenue. 40% of all pizza sales go to support Right to Life. That's a really good percentage, actually.
Yeah,
for
40%.
Yeah, most of these restaurants that do that don't give that much. Yeah.
No, 40%. That's huge.
Also, Thursday, March 30th, our educational dessert with our guest speaker, Gianna Jessen. She is a very prominent pro-life speaker, spoke before Congress a number of times, particularly for the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act. She'll be speaking Thursday, March 30th at 6:30 p.m. at the St. Paul Catholic Newman Center in Fresno at Barstow and Cedar. Seating will be limited. She'll be raffling off copies of her book. So give us a call, again, 559-229-2229.
That is a smorgasbord of pro-life activities.
A lot of stuff going on. All right. Now, to close out the show, I just want to alert people, particularly in the South Valley. Planned Parenthood is trying to open a clinic in the city of Tulare, California. If you live in the South Valley, particularly if you live in Tulare or in Visalia, we want you to take some action, okay? So first, you can make your opinion known about this by contacting city officials in Tulare. Particularly, there's the Tulare city manager, Mark Mondell. You can get in touch with his office at 559-684-4200. You can also, I think a good thing to do is to contact this real estate development group that is sort of going to be the landlord potentially for Planned Parenthood in the city of Tulare. The Lago Marcino Group, which is in Visalia, California. Their number is 559-735-9700. Their email is info@lagomarsino.com, LAGOMARSINO. Now, if you send them an email, just say no to Planned Parenthood in Tulare in the email. I just want to emphasize, do not flame these people. Do not harass these people. Do not be rude. Do not be crazy. Do not do anything, God forbid, anything unlawful. Yeah. I do, though, want to emphasize, hey, this is really bad. We don't want Planned Parenthood to open up shop in the South Valley. They've been trying to open up in the South Valley. Again, this is part of Planned Parenthood's thing. Oh, there are all these people who can't have access to abortion. People in Visalia have to travel all the way to either Fresno or Bakersfield. Abortion is bad. It is not something we want to promote. It is not something we want access to because it is wrong. It is not necessary for healthcare treatment. It is not necessary for anything. It is a social evil, and it is something we should try to stop. If people have healthcare needs, they can be addressed without abortion at hospitals that already exist in Visalia, okay? So we are not trying to deny anyone access to any basic, actual, authentic healthcare. Frankly, abortion is not healthcare in the sense that it's not treating a healthcare problem. It's ending a pregnancy, which is not a healthcare problem. Okay, so we really encourage people, contact city officials in the city of Tulare, contact the Lago Marcino Group, and again, their number is 559-735-9700 or info@lagomarcino.com. And again, just really emphasize to all of you, this would be a horrible thing for the Valley, for another abortion clinic to open up. But this is all part of the push. This is all Planned Parenthood's push to expand abortion access and thereby make oodles and caboodles of money.
And John, all these segments today, it's interesting. We have a theme that essentially Planned Parenthood has an all-of-the-above strategy. Too late for a chemical abortion, we'll expand the deadline on that. Can't get chemical abortion, we'll send a physician assistant. Still need a surgical abortion, we'll open a Planned Parenthood in Visalia.
Or in Tulare.
Yep.
Yeah. So at any rate, again, contact the Lago Marcino Group, info@lagomarcino.com, LAGOMARSINO, or give them a call at 559-735-9700. Anyway, again, pray for Tulare, pray for the San Joaquin Valley that we not have another abortion clinic. That's going to do it for Right to Life Radio this week. Thank you all so much for listening. God bless, and we'll see you next time.